Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. The Australian heavyweight prospect Justis Huni has advanced to 7-0 following a very tough slugfest with New Zealand's Kiki Toa Leutele, and this fight was in Brisbane, Australia. So the scorecards, we'll get to that first and then to some thoughts in the action, and we'll just sort of bounce back and forth because there was a little bit of the good, the bad and the ugly, because this was a very fun fight, but Justis Huni really played with fire. He fought the only sort of fight that Kiki Toa Leutele could win, and when you step back and given what happened in the fight, Justis Huni still got a ways to go, and actually he was injured in the fight too, so bit of recovery ahead. Scorecards, and they do not reflect the fight, I will say that right now, because this was a fight where Justis Huni was outworking Kiki Toa Leutele for the most part, especially in the latter rounds. But Kiki Toa Leutele was having a lot of success. He was landing on Justis Huni to body and head frequently, but he was getting outworked, wasn't landing as many power shots, wasn't landing as many point scoring shots compared to Justis Huni. So the scorecards: 97-93, 98-92 and 99-91. And I thought that 99-91 was especially cruel because the effort that Kiki Toa Leutele put in this fight and the shots that he landed, and he actually legitimately hurt Justis Huni on a few occasions. Actually, Leutele after the fight said, "Look, I thought I hurt him every round. I just couldn't get the finish." And there were a couple of times, especially round 2, where he did visibly buzz him, and in round 4, Justis Huni was lucky to get away with what I thought was a knockdown, but it was ruled a slip. But first 4 rounds, absolutely frantic. The pace was hectic, and I was thinking, can they keep this up? This is really going for broke here. And perhaps that's what Kiki Toa Leutele thought was his best strategy: come out hard and fast. I gave the first 4 rounds 2 apiece. Very good action. And Justis Huni had identified, obviously we've spoken about this before on the channel, Kiki Toa Leutele is open to an uppercut, been floored by it many times before, or a couple of times against Julius Long in particular, I should say. And Huni was looking for that early and often, and he was really investing to the body. He wanted to slow Kiki Toa Leutele down, and it paid dividends later on. But Kiki Toa Leutele was, giving as good as he got in those early rounds. He was looking to punch with Justis Huni and having a lot of success. His body work was very good as well. Also landing a lot of decent hooks, in particular. One in round 2 buzzed at Justis Huni, got a visible reaction. Commentary didn't really say anything at the time, but I thought, well, he looked like he had a little bit of the stanky leg there just for a second, backed up, and then his sort of demeanor changed as well. You know, a bit of kidology ensued, and so you knew that something had happened, that he was a little bit unsteady on his feet, and the replay between rounds did show that. Round 4, Justis Huni was being hit with a series of right hands, and then he touches down on the canvas with his gloves after, I think, the 4th or 5th shot landed, but it was ruled a slip. I went back and looked at it. I mean, it looked like a knockdown, looked like it should have been a knockdown, but Kiki Toa Leutele didn't get that. But it wouldn't have mattered in the end, because what we saw was basically a tale of 2 fights in many respects. First 4 rounds, super competitive, a lot of back and forth, and the jab from Justis Huni was really good too. The speed and combinations was giving Kiki Toa Leutele some issues, and that sort of picked up later in the fight as well, because the second half of the fight, you had Kiki Toa Leutele visibly slowing down. And in some of those rounds, what, 8, 9 in particular, you know, there was just a very, sort of sedate pace from Kiki Toa Leutele, really being selective. The output had dropped significantly. He was looking to just counter, look for the big money shot, and he tried to go for broke in the final round. Wasn't successful. But there's a couple of things to talk about with this fight, because in the scheme of things, this is a really good development fight. But also, it's another fight where Justis Huni has adapted his style somewhat, and it seems to be he's obviously been told you need to be more fan-friendly, because Justis Huni is a guy who boxes, he moves, he's got really good skills. And in this fight, it was a night and day, when he was actually standing at range, instead of being right up on Kiki Toa Leutele's chest, fighting the only sort of close quarters battle that Kiki Toa Leutele could win. But when he was at range, he looked so much better. He was controlling the fight more easily. He took a lot of punishment in this fight. He took a lot of punishment in the Joe Goodall fight. The defense was not great. He ate a lot of shots. Sure, he's got fast hands. Sure, he's got a good array and arsenal of punches, but he's eating too many shots. And remember, this guy, Kiki Toa Leutele, who I know well, I've covered his fights before, the one against Dempsey McKean, he gave McKean a tough fight as well. This was also another tough fight. And you have to ask the question, you know, with Justis Huni, are they taking him down the garden path here, trying to make it seem like he's a puncher? Because he's not. Even though the commentary was, and I'll talk about this a little bit later on, they made some ridiculous comments after the fight, but even though the commentary was talking about he was punching harder and he's really, you know, getting some more power in his shots, all that sort of stuff, Justis Huni is not a knockout artist. He's not going to get a lot of stoppages at the world level. And this is not world level, not even approaching it. Kiki Toa Leutele, and you can go check on BoxRec yourself, he's currently outside the top 100. At this point, in my estimation, remember I cover the heavyweight division, you know, pretty closely, I don't even think he's a top 50 fighter. And you're getting pieced up by a guy and getting hit with all sorts of shots, getting buzzed, getting hurt, and no regard for defense. Leaky as. Justis Huni's going to be in trouble if he tries to fight that way when he moves up to a much higher level. I mean, they were talking ahead of this fight and even sort of during the fight, during the commentary, and the promoters talked about facing a top 10 opponent. And let's be real, when he faces a so-called inverted commas top 10 opponent, they mean a sanctioning body top 10 opponent, not someone that's legitimately in the top 10. So we need to dispel that. But I mean, some of the names that had been bandied around ahead of this fight, talking about guys that could come over, maybe Agit Kabayel, Zan Kosabutsky, there were some others. It's, you know, it's not feasible. They're going to have to overpay some guys that are effectively going to, you know, make Justis Huni look good, because they have to build his profile. They have to build his career. This was, though, this fight, a very good one for the development, but I do worry that he's taking a little bit too much punishment. And if he's going to be sort of promoted as this fun, exciting fighter, he's going to have to fight more like this. He'll take punishment, as he has in his past couple of fights. And you have to ask the question, well, what's the end goal? Is he transitioning to a more aggressive fighter? I mean, his corner was imploring him at times, just stand off. You don't have to get in there. And one of the things that, you know, because he was really chancing his arm at times as well, laying on the ropes, and also, you know, he would just sort of stand in the pocket just a bit too long, where, you know, previous fights I've seen of Justis Huni, you know, he'd sort of get his work away and be away instead of standing there to receive some more punishment. But, I mean, there were some really good things. I thought early on the speed was good, the jab looked good. I mean, he has been training in the United States for this fight. Maybe he's had the benefit of that. He was there for 6 weeks training under Justin Fortune. And I think the training situation, you know, he does need to sort of evolve, and he does need to develop, and getting some outside expertise and some experience overseas is going to be good for him. Obviously, the uppercuts, phenomenal early on. Obviously thinking, I'll try to exploit this weakness that Kiki Toa Leutele has. Leutele has obviously been working on his defense. He still got hit with a whole bundle, but in general, his high guard was reasonably effective at keeping out a lot of big power shots. But the body work was a thing that ultimately that really took the stuffing out of Kiki Toa Leutele. Huni was peppering him throughout this fight. So there was a lot of good, but there was also some bad and some question marks about the what next. And obviously with the hand, I mean, he said after the fight that it felt like, you know, from like it did in the Paul Gallen fight, he was out for months and months and months after that. He missed the Olympics. He didn't fight for the rest of 2021, and that was the fight that was mid-year. So you have to ask the question, what's up with the hand? But also, where are they taking him? And what are they trying to build? What are they trying to portray to people? Because he's going to climb up the levels, and if they're going to try, you know, make him out to be a puncher, which he is not, he's going to be in trouble if he tries that same sort of style against guys who can actually crack. Kiki Toa Leutele has got decent power. He's not the knockout artist, and he's not the massive elite power puncher that the commentary would have you believe. I mean, there were some comments after the fight as well, sort of saying that Justis Huni in his skills is among the top 1 or 2 in the world. As I said in a tweet on Twitter, that's rimming of the highest order. This guy is still developing. Give him the chance. I mean, I know what they're trying to do, trying to say, you know, he's in this company with these guys, to, you know, pandering to the audience, because ultimately they're trying to sell a product. They want to make some money off Justis Huni down the line, and they're bigging him up. They were sort of talking about potential fights, and they mentioned Andrew Ruiz. So I had to laugh when they said that, but you know, I think conversations with guys, Andy Ruiz, the correct name, it's not appropriate at this time. He's not ready for it. I mean, really what they're going to do is have to overpay someone to come to Australia. It's probably not going to be the names that they've been bandying out, but it'll be guys with padded records that he can look good at. I mean, remember, his promoter, Dean Lonergan, was one half of the promotional team that promoted Joseph Parker. Lonergan knows what he's doing. He'll try to ingratiate Huni into the Australian sporting public's mind, try to really sort of build them up, and they want him to, probably like Parker, who was in all these exciting fights, but as it transpired later on, going up the levels, couldn't knock the skin off a rice pudding. Justis Huni is very much in that same camp. Good skills, can box and move, but is not a knockout artist and will not get knockouts at world level. Joseph Parker certainly has not. So, I mean, I guess they're sort of trying to sell one idea, but really the fighter and, you know, his skill set is a little more aligned to something different, but that doesn't sell as well. So I wonder if the pressure's been coming on. You have to go out there, make a statement. You have to look good. You have to do this, that, and the other, because we have to sell you to the public. And obviously there's trade-offs. But yeah, Justis Huni, a little worried about the defense, and also taking a lot of shots, a lot of punishment. I mean, even when Joseph Parker was coming up and, you know, being aggressive, he wasn't taking as many shots like that. But then again, some of these opponents that Justis Huni is facing, under 10 fights, he's 7-0 at the moment, they're actually pretty good. Kiki Toa Leutele is not the sort of guy that you would normally face, you know, for your 7th fight. I mean, I think Dempsey McKean fought him somewhere around 20 fights, and he gave McKean all he could handle. Also, like Justis Huni, he managed to, you know, hit and hurt Dempsey McKean in that one. And I think Kiki Toa Leutele comes out of this with a lot of credit. He fought really well, showed a lot of heart, determination, kept coming forward, and he was hitting the target. Admittedly, Huni was sort of playing into the sort of fight that Kiki Toa Leutele was suited to. But Kiki Toa Leutele was having success. And like I say, the scorecards sort of don't reflect the effort that he put in and the success that he was having. It was a very competitive fight in which one guy was just doing more in most of the rounds. The 99-91, a bit cruel. Sort of, you know, those other 2 scorecards, yeah, they're okay. I mean, I think Leutele was a bit disappointed that he didn't win, but I think it was, you know, clearly a Justis Huni win here. But he will get more work on the back of that. But it's interesting. What next for Justis Huni? I think he's going to be out for a while with the hand injury. That'll sort of probably, you know, kill off a little bit of momentum. They were talking about potentially having Huni back out next month. And this also brings a bit of a question, you know, up. You know, where's the sort of duty of care for the fighter? He's just come off a fight in November, and you're looking to chuck him in 6 weeks. And they were talking about names that are actually a step above Kiki Toa Leutele. He's a prospect, but you're treating him like he's, you know, the sort of matchmaking that he's sort of more like a fringe contender, which possibly at this point he is. But 6 weeks or less, 4 weeks into another hard fight. I mean, this is what happened last time when he got injured in the Gallen fight. They had him in a series of fights a few months apart, and he ultimately broke down. You have to ask the question, are they looking after him? Have they got the best interest? Are they just thinking about the almighty dollar? And these are the questions that have raised before in regards to the sort of direction of Justis Huni. I mean, it'd be a different story if he's blowing out, you know, a journeyman in 2 rounds, but they're putting him in with relatively tough opposition. He's just gone 10 hard rounds here. He went, rounds earlier this year, not so long ago, against Joe Goodall. That went all 10 rounds as well. And they were looking to sort of flog him again in December. Yikes. What do you make of it all? Drop a comment loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.